Hello, this is Stormtrooper 1. In case you were just way too busy to listen to our last show, this is what you missed.
Basically, the headline is Mark Hamill responds after Stormy Daniels slams Star Wars The Last Jedi as the worst movie ever.
Oh, wait a second. Stormy Daniels hated The Last Jedi?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh.
So, apparently, Stormy Daniels is casting a dark cloud over the new Star Wars movie. The last...
Why can't she cast her giant bosoms? Over all of them.
All of us. Those are no moons.
But it is a cave.
Very deep cave.
Or there's Minok in that cave.
This is nuts.
Fuck you, Rian Johnson.
Oh.
She tweeted after the movie premiered in
very
December. She also called it the worst movie ever while replying to a fan. But Luke Skywalker actor Mark Hamill decided to get in on the fun as well, retweeting Johnson's post with the caption, "Another satisfied customer."
I don't like your mind.
If you read his tweet, he says "another satisfied customer," and then he puts a kissy emoji on it.
Why isn't there like a dick sucking emoji?
Warning from the Bacta tape contains adult language and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not continue.
We would be honored if you would join us.
How are you feeling? Your latest workups on your condition indicate that all damage has been reversed. Recovery is total. I believe you have been quite fortunate. No further thanks are necessary, Commander, but you are most welcome. It is my function and pleasure as a medical droid to help and heal human beings.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Ojaba.
Hello? Hello, David.
Hello.
You and I, Dave, have a lot to get through today.
Yes,
And
we do.
after a couple weeks, several weeks, of not having a lot of information to delve into other than hating on Last Jedi, which is what a lot of people seem to be doing.
The trendy thing to do.
Yeah. Well, let me just reiterate. I don't hate The Last Jedi because I know people like going off and well, you guys are supposed to be Star Wars fans. Like, listen, I love Star Wars. I love the Republic. I love democracy. That's what I feel like when I'm justifying The Last Jedi. I feel like I'm Palpatine talking to Anakin and the rest of the Senate. No, I have no problems. Well, no. What am I doing? Lying now? I have problems with The Last Jedi.
I was about to say, you do have problems.
I have problems with The Last Jedi, and also psychologically, I have issues. I just feel like it's time to move forward and be positive. And yes, we're always going to go back and hearken on the bad writing. Again, my problems with Last Jedi for the new listeners, and just to reiterate once more, is not the decisions. I can get behind the decisions. These aren't my movies. I can get behind the decisions that Rian Johnson used. I can't get behind the writing, the actual writing itself. How the way he executed those decisions, I feel were a little bit poor. But
yeah,
let's move forward, because it's time to enjoy life and to become one with the Force yet again, David, because my hope has been restored. The Han Solo trailer that has recently been released. Yeah. We had a preview during the Super Bowl, and then the official teaser trailer came out the following Monday. And for the most part, there seems to be a lot of enthusiasm surrounding the trailer. And I know it's just a trailer. And one thing that a lot of us Star Wars fans do is we get very hyped up and then we get disappointed when it's not what we wanted.
Exactly.
But I feel like I looked at the trailer objectively, and there's a lot of cool things in it. And I feel like moving forward, there's reasons to be rejoiceful. Would you agree?
Yes, I absolutely do. However, I do want to approach it with a bit of hesitation.
Why? Why? Why must we do that?
You know, I have to. I have to. Because I was so hyped from, I hate to say it, The Last Jedi trailer. I basically want to learn my lesson. Mike.
Listen, Dave, listen here. I was excited when I saw The Last Jedi trailer. I was excited when I've been excited whenever I see any Star Wars trailer. But I have not been this excited for a Star Wars trailer since we first saw the opening teaser for the first teaser for The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
So the feelings that the Han Solo teaser brought, I have not felt that in about 3.5 years. Yes, The Last Jedi trailer was awesome. Yes, the Rogue One trailer was awesome. But nothing was in it that made me sit down and watch it 25, 30 times. The moment it came out.
Yes.
And I just went back, rewound it, went back, watched it, rewound it, and I kept analyzing it. And man, I have a lot of confidence in what they're trying to do. I mean, just taking a look at the imagery. First off, just look at the imagery, which that hasn't been an issue with this new era of Star Wars. The imagery and a lot of the
visuals. The
visuals have been just spot on, just gorgeous. And it seems like we're getting more the same when it comes to that. But also, let's not just analyze imagery for the sake of cinematography, but let's analyze it for the sake of genre. And that's something that really stuck out for me. And what I mean by genre is this, Dave. We've heard since the very first moments that the Han Solo standalone film was going to be announced, or was announced, we heard that it was going to be similar to a Western.
Yes.
And if you analyze the trailer, there are a lot of notes. There are a lot of nods to the Western genre, but there's more than just that. And that is why I'm excited, because yes, I'm a Star Wars fan, Dave. Always will be. But first and foremost, I'm a film geek. So if you take Star Wars and you wrap it up in a nice little genre bow with a little genre bow on top, make it look all enticing, I'm going to molest it. I'm going to molest that package. I'm going to get my hands all over it.
You're going to get your hands all over it?
I mean, part of the reason why Star Wars, the original trilogy, was so cool to me was the nods to Edgar Rice Burroughs. You know, the old pulps. The Flash Gordon serials. I'm a film buff. Those are the things that I'm drawn to.
Have you seen the new posters that have come out for Solo? They're very, very Edgar Rice Burroughs, the John Carter of Mars type. It's amazing what they're trying to push for the style. I mean, I agree with you. I am really psyched with what we are seeing style-wise for the Han Solo film. We're seeing something that is definitely what they did with Rogue One. Like in Rogue One, they basically made it a war film, a Star Wars war film, which they did wonderfully.
Right.
This time, I'm kind of interested too, because like we were told that was going to be kind of have a Western feel and a film noir type of feel.
Right.
And they didn't hold back on that trailer. You saw a lot of the telltale signs of a film noir and a spaghetti Western almost type of feel to it.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I've gotten, I think, amped, and a little bit of my hope has been restored, I should say. Because when you look at it, there are a lot of nods to some of my favorite genres. You mentioned film noir. Absolutely. That's the other genre that I notice immediately. You got the Western, you got the film noir, and perhaps a little bit of pulp, which is the Edgar Rice Burroughs, and pulp and the film noir genre kind of mesh together. The lines are a bit blurred when you really start breaking those down. So to see those elements being used in the Han Solo trailer brings me a lot of hope. And hope not just in style, but also substance and story, because with those genres come a specific style of storytelling. And when you look at the visuals, they actually marry very well with the genres that we see in those in the images. For example, Dave, I think a lot of Star Wars fans have kind of griped and complained that in this new era of Star Wars, and I'm just going to be a sexist douche about it, the sexiness of Star Wars has kind of have been null and void. The attractiveness of Star Wars, of some of the clothing and the attire.
Yeah.
And one thing that we see in Solo is that being brought back. And now I'm not bashing Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. I'm saying that perhaps the time period and where we find ourselves in the Star Wars timeline or that current Star Wars story doesn't go over well having a specific type of clothing. I get it. But now we're going back into this era, criminals, seedy organizations, and this is something we talked about with Jabba the Hutt and Return of the Jedi. There's a reason why Slave Leia was dressed like Slave Leia.
Yeah.
It fits. It's misogynistic by design. People want to complain, oh, it's misogynistic. Yeah, you're right, but by design.
Yeah, and it's less conservative because, like, the whole thing about it is, like, you're dealing with a part of the society that basically doesn't follow those rules.
The social norms.
Right.
And to see that being brought back in with Han Solo, and I'm basing this solely on a few moments in the teaser that they're bringing back the sex appeal and the raw elements that create a lot of these genres that I was talking about. The film noir genre, for one. I mean, the way Emilia Clarke's character was introduced with that lighting.
Oh, that lighting was beautiful.
Oh, I mean, that's ripped from the pages of like the 1940s and 50s film noir films. So when you start looking at if you go scene by scene on the Han Solo trailer, you start noticing a lot of film geek wants. You start seeing who directed this movie, which is Ron Howard. You start seeing the guy who grew up in this era. You start seeing his directing style and something that he hasn't been able to do in years because he's kind of moved away from that. He's gone more down the serious route for the most part. He's not doing these fun films anymore.
Yes.
But this is what happens when you can go back to your roots, back to where you started. And
especially with Ron Howard, I think his type of directing, if anybody has seen a lot of Ron Howard's, I know he posts a lot of like filmmaking school stuff, and everything else. If you watch Ron Howard work, his type of directing and his type of storytelling is very personal. And if there's one thing that basically that makes a spaghetti western and a film noir film work, is making it really personal to the audience to feel like that character. You know what I mean? And they basically, he has a way of actually telling a story that fits that type of genre, just like what you said. And that's one of the things that basically, for me, besides the trailer for you, the one thing that had me really hyped was actually Ron Howard's addition to it.
Yeah.
I have nothing against, I have nothing personal against Phil Lord and,
we do.
them.
Yeah, we do.
And Chris Miller, but they're not a Ron Howard. If you're a fan of Ron Howard, you know what his style is.
Right. They do 21 Jump Street and Lego cartoons. I mean, let's get real. I don't even know what the fuck Kathleen Kennedy was thinking when she hired those guys.
I think, as we said, I think Kathleen Kennedy was actually thinking of trying to infuse the filmmaking audience.
Yeah,
you know?
I get it. I do get it. I'm being facetious. I understand she was trying something new, but I think in the end, she probably ended up making a lot better call going with Ron Howard than sticking with them.
It kind of is funny because I remember us discussing about it in past shows that Kathleen Kennedy probably feels burned now trying to get some of these newer filmmakers.
Right.
And it hasn't worked. It really hasn't.
I agree. And I know since the very first announcement of the Han Solo standalone film, Dave, I was not an advocate of it. I viewed it much like probably many other Star Wars fans. I'm a Star Wars fan. I'm going to go check it out. It could be cool.
Yeah.
But I wasn't excited about it until Phil Lord and what's the other dude's name?
Chris
Miller were removed from the film. And when they brought Ron Howard on, that's when my excitement started to grow. When I knew that a director that I respect, a director that understands Lucas's inspirations, a director that understands film, a director that understands the film genres, that's when I started getting excited. And now with the release of our first images, I have full faith in this movie, Dave. This movie is going to be fucking good. Any other last thoughts on the trailer before we move forward?
Last thoughts on the trailer. I mean, as I said, I'm with you. I really liked the trailer, but man, it just shows that what Last Jedi did is like now it's making people really hesitant.
Yeah.
And it amazes me that basically when you take a look at it, a bad movie within a franchise can really derail almost like any enthusiasm for anybody.
Yeah, and that's kind of our focus, not The Last Jedi, but the enthusiasm and the changes. That's gonna be most of our focus this week on our show, because we got a lot of news, and we spoke about this a week and a half ago in our previous show, Dave. Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy, they have to have something big around the corner. They have to have something that will grab the headlines so they can regain and take control of this PR horse that just took off running, and it's shitting out negativity as it's running.
Yeah.
They have to do something. We said that. And sure enough, over the past 7 to 10 days, there has been a lot of new excitement being shared due to the recent news of various things that we're going to get into. There's trilogies, there's TV shows, there's new directors, new writers, all these things all announced within the last 10 days. And we're going to get through all of it. But first, we're going to stick a little bit closer to our starter topic, which is Han Solo. And this has to do with Emilia Clarke and her outlook on the Star Wars film that she had just starred in and is now promoting, Han Solo. Emilia Clarke says her Star Wars femme fatale has a core of steel. And I just want to say the fact that she used that word, femme fatale, that strengthens my resolve that this will be a film geek's dream come true movie, because they're using the right terminology.
Yes.
The femme fatale. This is just fantastic. Now, all right. So Game of Thrones fans know her as the Dragon Lady of the House Targaryen, rightful heir to the Iron Throne, yada, yada, yada. This article is taken from EW. Star fans will come to know Emilia Clarke only as Kira. Is that how you would say her name, Dave? Is that what it looks like? Kira, right?
Kira.
Yeah. All right, this is a character who doesn't want her full resume out there. She's a woman of shadows, of secrecy. She's a woman of many identities, the truest ones hidden away and only visible to those she trusts, which may be no one. She's also one of the primary forces that shape the young smuggler we meet in Solo, a Star Wars story. As part of the Entertainment Weekly's cover story about the May 25th movie, the EW has caught up with Clarke to discuss her role as the galactic femme fatale. So I don't really want to get into too much of her interview because it's kind of like a bunch of useless banter. But I think the takeaway for me, Dave, is the fact that she refers to a character as a femme fatale. And I always talk about genres and why they're important, Dave. When you have a genre, there's things that go with that genre. And once you understand what genre you're writing in, you can then move forward with your story. It helps. It serves as I don't want to say an anchor of sorts, but it serves as a path to write your story. And when you have your femme fatales, your film noirs, your gunslingers, you then have a way to keep your story tight and focused on the classic archetypes that fit within that specific genre. And that's why I continue to get excited over this news, because, I mean, Ron Howard has talked about his film noir sci-fi opera, his Western sci-fi opera. So I think they're on the right path with this.
Yes, they are. I mean, like, if you do take the time to read the interview with her, you're right. It's a little bit of a basically PR banter and everything. But some of the things that do actually sound really interesting is when they point blank ask her about her character being classified as a femme fatale and the film being kind of tailored to a film noir. That's why her character. And she says it's interesting that basically with her character, if everyone knows what a femme fatale is, it's a character that basically has a very mysterious background, but still has a major impact on the main character. You never get to
their
know.
motives are usually ambiguous.
Ambiguous, yeah. Their motives are really ambiguous, but they're connected to the main character and actually influence the main character throughout the entire story up to the end.
Yeah, they're very important. They're just, in a film noir, they're just as important to the story as the main archetype hero of a film noir, which is the anti-hero typically.
And people have to understand, they're like saying, well, a lot of chatter about this character is kind of like, well, how is she supposed to mean something to Solo, because we know Solo ultimately leads to Princess Leia. That
people need to grow up and get out of their basements, because life is much more than just one woman when you're a man.
Exactly.
And for example, I'm 38 years old. I'm with one woman now that I've been with for 7 years. However, that doesn't mean the woman that I was with prior, that I was with for 7 years of my life before, doesn't mean that she didn't help shape me and help me become who I am today. I know I saw some gripes on the internet about that, saying, well, this is going to take away from Princess Leia, but it doesn't. Princess Leia didn't make Solo who he is.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. I saw a lot of complaints on the internet about that, saying, well, this is the woman's going to shape Han Solo. The guy's 30 years old when we meet him. If he doesn't know who he is by the age of 30, he should just run that Millennium Falcon straight into a fucking star.
Exactly. That's the thing I was thinking about when I was seeing that, was like going, so you mean to tell me that basically Han Solo was a blank slate before we ever met him? No, this is about how the character of Kira is supposed to help make Han Solo who we know by the time in New Hope.
Yeah,
and that's it.
I think it's good, man. I think it's really good.
I think it's really good,
especially if you don't know where her loyalties lie. If she's going to be utilized as a true femme fatale, there's so much potential for story there, man.
Oh yeah.
So I'm super stoked. You know, I want to backtrack just a moment, Dave, because we didn't even talk about Donald Glover as Lando.
That scene,
that
scene did a lot for me.
Well, I'm gonna go back, and yes, we haven't seen any lines of dialogue yet, but I mentioned that I like Donald Glover as an actor. He's very capable, but I didn't feel like he can pull off that Lando swagger. Lando is a cool motherfucker. He's just cool. Billy D. Williams oozes coolness.
Yeah, he does it with a look.
Yes, and because of that, and because of all the other work that I've seen Donald Glover do, I wasn't quite sure if he can be the Lando that we know, and be that basically capture the essence of Lando. I don't care if these actors look
the part.
Look the part. He doesn't need to look like Lando necessarily. Han Solo doesn't need to look like Han Solo. I think the most important part when you're recasting characters is they have the essence, because you don't want to have an actor being a parody of another actor. That's shitty. And a good comparison would be Chris Pine as Captain Kirk in the new rebooted movies by J.J. Abrams. Chris Pine is his own version of Kirk.
Yes.
He didn't try to be a parody. And that's not what I want for these roles either. I don't want a kid walking around trying to be Lando. I don't want a kid walking around trying to be Han Solo. I want them to have the essence of Han Solo, the essence of Lando. What makes those characters who they are. That's what they need to be. If they can capture the essence and the heart of those individuals, then them not looking exactly like them or even acting like them, I don't think is going to matter, because we're never going to have Eric Aldrich act like Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford is a bit of a character actor. He's kind of become a parody of himself over the years.
Yes.
I think he's a brilliant actor, but I feel like he's also become a parody of himself, much like Clint Eastwood became a parody of himself. It happens with these old school actors who have garnered decades and decades of fans. They kind of do what the fans expect them to do. Not saying Harrison Ford hasn't taken risk with his career, so simmer down there, Harrison Ford fans. I'm not talking shit. I love Harrison Ford. I'm saying that I don't want a kid to walk around acting like Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Make sure we capture the essence of Han Solo. And the same thing can be said about Donald Glover with Lando. If you can capture the essence of what makes Lando Calrissian, then that is a win, and that's all I want. And in just those few short moments, I saw Donald Glover capture the essence of Lando.
Yeah.
Just with a smirk and a nod. Yeah. I mean, so good.
And the way he was dressed and everything, and the way that Lando is that type of person that you don't really have to give him a lot of dialogue. It's his actions and the way he swaggers in. That's how we could tell that's Lando. And that whole scene just oozed smoothness. Like he's watching, we can only assume that he's basically watching the Millennium Falcon take off and he's smiling and kind of like snickering at it. So, yeah, I was really hesitant about Donald Glover, but I mean, just by a simple scene and seeing him standing there dressed as Lando and on set as Lando, it put a little positivity in me about the whole thing where it's like, okay.
Just a little positivity?
Remember, I'm approaching this with a little hesitation.
I don't like large positivity. It hurts.
Yeah,
it hurts.
I'm like,
if you're gonna put large positivity in me, make it. Please go really slow, and use some blue milk as lubricant, please.
Blue milk. Just don't get it from those cows.
What's that thing that Luke milked?
Yeah, don't get it from that seed thing.
Squirt some of that on your enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm, please.
Yeah.
Please take a little easy on my entry.
Oh. That is just sick, David. You are a sick man.
I am.
All right. So speaking of sick, let's get into this Game of Thrones news as well. The Game of Thrones duo and all their gory lusts and sexual lusts from Game of Thrones storytelling will now be joining the Star Wars universe. How interesting is that, Dave? And how unexpected is that, right?
It is. It's really unexpected. And again, I think this is like another movement by Kathleen Kennedy to try to infuse more blood. So I'm going to pull out my filmmaker side here and say bravo on doing it. And I hope it works out. I really do, because the guys who did the Game of Thrones stuff are absolutely, they've carried that series very well. Farther than I thought they could ever do.
I know some people were kind of bitching about them, but that's because people bitch about everything. They were saying that these guys can't write anything. Look what they've done with the last 2 seasons, because they've been going off. They were going off on their own path because the books are no longer in sync with the TV season.
But that's not their fault. That's George R. R. Martin's fault, because George R. R. Martin takes freaking forever to write a book.
Yeah, and I don't think the seasons have been bad, but that's a whole other show. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah, that's a whole different
someday, maybe
someday.
Yeah. So Game of Thrones duo to pilot new Star Wars movie series, according to Deadline.com. As the 9th and final film in the original Star Wars series looms, Disney and Lucasfilm are stepping up big time to continue Hollywood's most iconic film franchise. They just unveiled that HBO's Game of Thrones masterminds have been set to write and produce a new series of movies set in the galaxy. The deal will also see the new films as separate from the episodic Skywalker saga, which just bowed Star Wars The Last Jedi in December, and also separate from the recently announced trilogy being developed by Last Jedi writer-director Rian Johnson.
You had an interesting
We'll
theory.
get there. We'll get there, David.
You had an interesting theory about this.
We'll get there. Like the Johnson trilogy announced in November, no release dates have been set for the new films. The next movie in the Star Wars franchise is, of course, the second standalone movie, Solo, a Star Wars story, directed by the one and only Ron Howard. All right, so this is what we have in the works. We have the episode 9 coming in with JJ.
Yes.
Which we have some JJ news as well, Dave. Some really big JJ news. We'll get there in a moment, but this is why I'm excited. Okay. All right, so this Game of Thrones trilogy, there's a lot of possibilities, and I think the sky is the limit when we're dealing with a trilogy that's not going to be connected to the Skywalker saga. And just so that people can calm down, when they say not connected, it doesn't mean it's not going to be part of the Star Wars canon or Star Wars universe. It just simply means it's not going to be connected to the Skywalker trilogy.
Yeah.
This will be its own story.
The key thing is like
part of the Star Wars canon, but separate from the Skywalker saga.
The thing that is really important to actually point out in this article and stuff is actually the fact that they actually mentioned that they were really quiet about what they're going to focus on. But what they did say was they're focused on a point in time in Star Wars mythology.
Yep.
So that has me really piqued. Like, okay, if it's Star Wars mythology, are we talking that they're going to possibly tell like maybe an Old Republic story, which would be really cool? Are they going to tell a Force story based on the Jedi and the Sith, the beginning of the Force? You know, are we going to see maybe the beginnings of the Jedi Academy?
We can go on forever.
We could go on forever.
The sky's the limit, and I'm hoping they focus on new material completely. We need to move forward.
Yeah.
Like that's what we need to do with Star Wars.
And I think that's a brilliant point that they made out was they're stepping away from the Skywalker storyline. So that's actually really good because that tells me, okay, the sky's the limit then. If we're stepping away from the Skywalker storyline and you're going to focus on Star Wars mythology, you're going to focus on building the EU universe then.
Right. And the thing that I took away from this, because I like to read between the lines, I'm a master of PR writing. I see what they're saying and what they're trying to do, and they're playing a shell game. Okay, Dave.
Is this
Ryan
your theory
Johnson?
now?
Ryan Johnson's fired.
You think he's just secretly fired?
He's fired. This is a soft way to fire Ryan Johnson. And I don't think they wanted to fire him because the guy really didn't do anything wrong. He followed the template that Kathleen Kennedy wanted him to do. But Ryan Johnson is way too toxic right now among Star Wars fans. It's too polarizing and not in a good way. And I know Lucasfilm likes to spin it. Ryan Johnson likes to spin it. And they say, oh, but we got people doing what we want. They're talking about Star Wars. That's great. They're also talking about Donald Trump, and it doesn't mean people love Donald Trump. That's a horrible excuse. Ryan Johnson is toxic, and whether you like Star Wars: The Last Jedi or not, that's not the point. The point is that The Last Jedi is dropping like a bag of stones to the bottom of the ocean.
It is.
When you look at
Shockingly,
Rotten Tomatoes.
yes.
I mean, and as the word of mouth spreads, people are just now watching it. It's getting worse. And with the people who didn't go see it at the theater and you finally watch on DVD next month when it comes out, all it's going to do is just going to drop that much more. So in order to stop the bleeding, again, we're only 3 movies in. If this was like the 9th movie in and we had a lot of history with Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm, I don't think this would be a big deal. This would be like Thor 2. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they had 6 years, 7 years of Marvel movies that were great, that were fun, exciting, big box office openers, and then you had Thor 2. And people are like, ooh, that wasn't very good. But look at everything else they've done. This is great. Look at everything else they've done. It's been fun. We're 3 movies in. So to have these types of problems and this type of polarizing discussions, divisive discussions amongst the Star Wars fans is not a positive thing. So what's going to happen is 2 things, Dave. I'm calling it now. And I'm usually not wrong about these types of things. A, he's fired. Okay, and they're just going to slowly forget about that other trilogy. Or B, Ryan Johnson's trilogy is going to be pushed for years. 5 or 6 years. They're going to put all their focus on the Game of Thrones writers trilogy. And then when the time's right and they have won back the favor of the mainstream and Star Wars fans, then you'll see them push forward with Ryan Johnson's trilogy if they stick with it. I could see them trying to save face, though, by saying, hey, you know what? A lot of years have passed. Ryan Johnson has decided to move on to his next project because we were taking too long. And that way they save him, they save face for him, and they save face for themselves. Dude, can you imagine them pushing forward with a trilogy with Ryan Johnson as the lead? Can you honestly see them doing that right now?
No.
It would be...
It's a PR nightmare.
Yes. It would be the biggest blunder since Roger and Phantom Menace.
Like, honestly, I understand Kathleen Kennedy wants to stick to her guns and kind of show that she wants to lead the ship, but you have to know when to back off.
You got to know when to fold them.
Yeah,
and know when to hold them, and know when to walk away.
Yep. Because
and know when to run. Okay, Ryan Johnson.
The funny thing is, I just looked up the numbers on Last Jedi and stuff. I never realized that it's sunk faster and lower than Phantom Menace.
We read the numbers on our last show. the numbers are just really bad when you compare them to other Star Wars movies. And and movies make a lot of money, and Star Wars movies make a lot of money, and a lot of money is a lot of money. But when you're dealing with a franchise like this, it's expected to continue to grow. And the fact that it kind of stutter-stepped 3 movies in, that is an issue.
It's the only movie to actually drop below 50% growth rate, which is insane.
Yeah, it's sad. And I know there's lots of things that you can say could have caused this, and there's various mistakes, and we've kind of killed them and gone into all of them.
Yes.
But I think there's something worth sharing from a listener of ours, and let me see if I can find it. He commented at some place. I'm not quite sure where it was at. I think it was our last Star Wars show, but let me see if I can find where he. Okay, he says The Last Jedi made less. This is from Jonah Dav. The Last Jedi made less than Phantom Menace, adjusted for inflation, and is only 6th place of all the Star Wars movies, with the 1977 movie being the top spot, which was the cultural juggernaut that launched the franchise. All right, I didn't know that. Ryan Johnson hates Star Wars. He told the fans, "Let the past die, kill it if you have to," and shoved on the fan base the assassination of. Okay, he goes into like a lot of old EU, like Jake Skywalker, the murder of the Mythos. See, and these are things that I don't agree with. Like, he has a great point when it comes to inflation
and the numbers,
and Ryan Johnson's comments he's made. I mean, we should have known there when he said he wasn't really a Star Wars fan. You know,
I was shocked when he made that announcement just publicly. I'm like going, what?
Yeah, he has some points there, but then he goes into like talking about the assassination of Jake Skywalker and all these old EU things. I don't care about the old EU being killed. I was upset when it first happened, but in the grand scope of things, we've already discussed this. In the grand scheme of things and looking at the bigger picture, it needed to be done. Otherwise, Star Wars would have no room to tell their story. And also, does anybody want to watch a Star Wars movie that we already know the story from a book? No, I don't. I want to be surprised. God damn it.
We want something new, you know? But the numbers don't lie. I mean, he brings up a really good point about the inflation.
You know what also doesn't lie? My hips. My hips don't lie either. Like Shakira.
Or Shakira hips.
Go ahead. What were you going to say? Sorry.
At the end of the day, people may complain about the EU being erased, but that's irrelevant right now. What matters is the numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what it comes down to.
No offense to Jonah Dev, but like, we shouldn't be basing our criticism on The Last Jedi based on retconned EU.
Yes, we can't
talk about living in the past. Yes, with that aspect of Ryan Johnson's words, forget the past. Kill it. Yes, we need to move on. The EU has been destroyed. There's a new era. You cannot review a movie based on what you wanted or on old EU. Yeah. You just can't.
And the thing is it's not like they removed the movies. They basically said the bone structure is there. The story of Star Wars that we all know as a mass audience is there. So the only thing that's been changed is the fluff around it. The fluff and the fat have been cut off. So we're making this more lean, and we're trying to control the storyline instead of having it branch out.
Speaking of fluff, Dave, we got to go to a very quick break so I can get fluffed. By
your Twi'lek dancers.
We'll be right back.
More Bacta Tank is coming right up.
Hello, this is Stormtrooper 1. This is just a friendly reminder. Please leave us a review on Stitcher. Go to Stitcher.com and search From the Bacta Tank. Every review left helps us get seen by more people. And we thank you so much. Remember, go to Stitcher.com and search From the Bacta Tank. Thank you.
It's just so smiling to see in your side.
Hey, you're not supposed to be in the studio.
Whoops!
See that red light? Yeah, that means I'm live and on the air.
This is very, very bad.
Get out.
No, no, no.
The Rain Man Show. The Rain Man Show.
Have you ever made your junk? And I don't want someone judging me like that way. For all I know, other people are thinking that way. Yeah. Oh man, I can see this guy's penis, or I can't see his penis from my peripheral vision.
You think way too much about this.
I'm a thinker.
So you're like saying, "Don't judge me. Let me look at your penis."
Yeah, you know, Einstein thought about the stars and how to solve problems and scientific equations.
You thought about a dude's dick and it trunks out.
Right.
You're the Einstein of dicks.
Yeah. There's a certain amount of geometry, right, to peripheral vision of seeing the cock. There has to be.
Oh no,
I challenge you.
I imagine you with this like Sherlock mind palace, imagining the shape of it, and there's like numbers going around for circumference and length.
He probably he clearly noticed you looking at his dick, right? So he
because I would
shield.
No, a shield. Is that what you do?
Shield with a little dick house with your hand.
A little dick
so
house
people can't
with
see
your
you.
hand.
For more Rain Man, visit RainManShow.com.
Have you ever wanted something so bad that you do just about anything for it? Well, that's exactly how we feel about you. That's right. AdamandEve.com wants you so bad. We're giving you 10 free gifts with your first order. You heard me right. That's 10 free gifts to spice up your love life. First, you'll get a sexy surprise for her. Second, an adventurous toy for him. And third, a little something we know you'll both enjoy. Plus, you'll get 6 full-length adult movies on DVD. And number 10, free shipping on your entire order. That's 10 free gifts for you shy types who've never tried Adam and Eve before. Just go to AdamandEve.com and select any one item. It could be an adventurous new toy, a sexy piece of lingerie, or anything you desire. Just enter offer code DEAL30 at checkout, and you'll get all 10 free gifts, including free shipping. That's offer code DEAL30. That's DEAL30 at AdamandEve.com.
The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi.
You're listening to From the Bacta Tank on Rain Man Digital.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to Star Wars From the Bacta Tank. I am Michael Flores, your host, and I'm in the studio, of course, with David Sabal. Hello, Dave.
Hello.
All right, so we got a lot more to get into, a lot of exciting topics. But before we get into that, Dave, I must tell people that we now offer Patreon discussions as well, exclusive Patreon discussions, much like our Star Wars Rebels Edition broadcast, where we delve into books and comics and we break them down. We just recently did an entire discussion on the Lords of Sith book as well. So that's exciting and fun. And if you have not read that book, definitely check that out. Lords of Sith by Paul S. Kemp. We broke that down. You can pledge to our Patreon. Head over to patreon.com/RainManDigital to pledge. $5 or more a month, and you gain access to all of our additional Star Wars discussions, plus hours more of content delivered right to your ear holes, nice and snug and tight. Sounds fun and sexy, right, Dave?
Oh, absolutely. It sounds really sexy.
All right, so several Star Wars TV shows are also in development, according to Disney. They confirmed this just last week, right around the same time that they announced the Game of Thrones writers coming on board Star Wars to shake things up. So, again, lots to be excited about. But this also poses the question of oversaturation. Let's put a pin in that because we're going to come right back to that in a second, okay?
Okay.
Several Star Wars TV shows are in development, Disney confirms. According to GameSpot.com, Disney launches its streaming service in 2019, and as well as making many of its movies and TV shows available, the studio is planning to develop new shows exclusively for the service. Inevitably, one of these is to be a Star Wars live-action series. I don't think that surprised anybody. In fact, I said this months ago when Disney announced their streaming service. I said they're going to launch their streaming service with original content, and the original content will be Star Wars, because no one's going to sign up for the Star Wars streaming or the Disney streaming service unless it has original content. It's the reason why, Netflix got its foot on Hollywood's throat, on the theater's throats, I should say.
Yeah.
It's the reason why people have subscribed to Amazon and subscribed to Hulu. It's because of the original content, as well as the various reruns of your favorite shows as well.
Yeah, especially like CBS, with the success so far of CBS All Access, that people are now taking notice of streaming services. I mean, the way we view TV is radically changing in the last 5 years.
Right.
And if Disney doesn't follow the same, I guess you could say, the same protocols as everybody else, they're just going to be left behind.
Well, no one's going to
watch.
Yeah, so they know what they're doing. They're definitely business savvy, if anything. For all the complaints you can hurtle at Disney, the one thing you can definitely say that's positive is they're good with business. They know what business. They know what they're doing.
Working.
They have a good strategy. So of course they're going to launch this series with some original content, and Star Wars being one of the ones that'll be front and center, no doubt. Disney boss Bob Iger has now revealed that the studio is in fact developing more than just one Star Wars show. During Disney's quarterly investors call, Iger stated that it won't be long before we get more details about the studio's plans. He says, we are developing not just one, but a few Star Wars series specifically for the Disney direct-to-consumer app, which is going to be the streaming service. This is something you and I have wanted for a very long time. This isn't a negative, having the Star Wars live action. It makes sense. I'm happy. I feel like it's a good move. It's new territory. It's uncharted territory for Star Wars. I know years ago George Lucas tried to do the same thing. I want to say right after Revenge of the Sith, he had planned an HBO series.
Yeah, it was him and Kevin Smith.
And I'm glad that didn't happen. Jesus Christ. And apparently HBO passed on the series. And then shortly after, Lucas made a deal with, Cartoon Network, I believe, to run Clone Wars. So the idea of a live action series kind of fizzled and failed ultimately. But now that Star Wars is leading the charge, or Disney is leading the charge, they have deep pockets and they can kind of do what they want. And it looks like they will be doing a Star Wars live action series. And again, uncharted territory, Dave. And the sky is the limit. Where could they go? Where should they go? What style of story should this be? Should it be ensemble? Should it be an intimate story? Should it be big? Well, what do people want to see in a Star Wars TV show? I can't even begin to start guessing what I even want. If you were told, David, what do you want to see in a Star Wars TV show? What's the one? Give me one concept that comes to your head immediately.
Immediately?
Yeah.
Honestly, the origins of the Force.
Okay.
I would love to see that.
And mine goes to the Old Republic.
Old Republic.
I feel like there's a lot, and you were about to go into the Force, so go ahead.
But like the very beginnings of the Force, so those stories are just so awesome that they could tell. Because, like, honestly, the Force has been very ambiguous, and even when Clone Wars touched on it in their cartoons and the lost episodes with Yoda, and even in some of the episodes sparkled in between in all the series, those episodes have been really amazing. Like the one that comes to mind definitely is like, if they could tell a story more about the father and the brother and the sister, the three Force entities that Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan met on the planet. That would be amazing, because that story was told beautifully. And the story behind it is also really just it touches the core of what Star Wars is.
Yeah. And a TV show might be exactly where they can really delve into the finer details of Star Wars. Just by design, movies aren't really made to really get into the intimate moments of a lot of things. and that being the Force itself. So if you were to delve into a TV show that can really take us into the mythos of the Force, I think it would be great. The only downfall, Dave, is this, and I am not an R-rated film advocate by any means only. Like, I love R-rated films. I love mature content. And when I say mature content, Dave, I'm talking about mature content, like with violence and...
Not Star Trek.
I'm not talking about porn. I'm not talking about porn parody, okay?
Porn parody.
The downfall, though, is according to this article, the Disney streaming app and the streaming service will not have any mature or rated R content.
Yeah, they can't.
That they will release those things. They're not saying they're opposed to producing it. I mean, they've been producing rated R mature content for decades. That's nothing new to Disney, but they've never put the Disney logo on anything like that. So, that being said, is there room for an Old Republic TV show or something pertaining to the Force that may get into those dark areas?
It'll be interesting if they can pull it off, because they... I shouldn't say Disney pulled it off with Clone Wars, because Clone Wars, you can make the argument Clone Wars at certain points was treading on that rated
But that
R.
wasn't Disney, though.
But that wasn't Disney.
Yeah.
So,
I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm saying they can do it if they're going to have to be very creative with it, because if they're not going to want to show violence of any type or anything mature, then they can be creative, because you did bring up a great point with the Clone Wars. I mean, the Dathomir storyline with Maul's resurrection is very dark. And I wouldn't say it's rated R. I'd say it's PG-13 just due to the imagery and the tone.
And the tone.
It's very dark. So
you could look at Rebels. I mean, Rebels, we've had some pretty dark moments in Rebels.
Yeah, but but it works as an animation, as a cartoon. Imagine translating some of that over to live action and be a little hokey.
It would.
So it works as a cartoon. And that's why I'm saying this is a whole different ballgame. This is uncharted territory. A live action TV show. I wouldn't even know what to expect, honestly.
I wouldn't either, because it's going to be... It's going to depend on who the creative mind behind the series is.
J.J. Abrams, I'm calling it now.
I like to say, and Filoni could do it.
Filoni and J.J. team up. J.J. has done great for TV. That's where he started.
Sorry, I would absolutely jizz with my pants.
Can you imagine if J.J. Abrams and Filoni team up to do a Star Wars TV show, to produce one? Dude, that would be amazing. Holy shit.
That would be a mic drop for Star Wars fans, because JJ would basically just come out and say, here's who I'm teaming with, and then Dave Filoni comes out and they just don't say anything.
and they pull their dicks out. That's all they do. Hey guys, at this year's Star Wars Celebration, you have to be at least 18 years and to enter this specific room, this specific panel. We're going to be announcing a TV show that's coming out, but you have to be 18. And the reason why, Dave, little do the people know waiting outside, is J.J. Abrams and Filoni are just going to come out with their hands at their dicks.
Hands at their dicks saying, what are you going to say now?
What? What? Like they have fuck Ryan Johnson tattoos across their chest?
That'd be so messed up.
Like, who are you talking about? Who?
Who
is this motherfucker? Who's this motherfucker that fucked up my story? Where you at?
But that would be an absolute dream team up for Star Wars fans. You have to say.
Well, dude, we're joking, but it's very possible.
It's
because
very possible.
There was recent news pertaining to J.J. Abrams. Okay, now J.J. is just. I love JJ, and people can hate on Force Awakens all day long, but that movie was very well written and very well executed. It didn't have everything that everybody wanted in it, but it was a great starting point for the new era of Star Wars. He did a great job with rebooting Star Trek. Minus Into Darkness, there was a little bit of a slump, but I digress. The seasons that he was involved with in Lost were amazing. The Fringe is amazing. Alias is amazing. Mission Impossible films, that when he rebooted them, were great. This guy is a man who knows his TV and knows his movies.
Yeah.
He is a film geek who became the director. J.J. Abrams, according to StarWarsNewsNet.com, J.J. Abrams is known for having a great degree of secrecy on his projects, as demonstrated by the recent Cloverfield sequel that was released on Netflix.
Yes.
Abrams is now saying that he can't wait to share what he knows about Star Wars Episode 9 with everyone, and that he'll be, the word here, Dave, he will be all in on further developing Star Wars in the very near future.
That's all you got to say.
He didn't say Episode 9. He said Star Wars, further developing Star Wars in the near future.
In the near future.
Kathleen Kennedy, I'm telling you, this is backing up my last statement. Kathleen Kennedy will not publicly say she made a mistake with The Last Jedi. She will not say it because you can't. And I understand that you can't. You have to stand by your work.
Yes.
Money speaks louder than everything. J.J. Abrams being brought in to do Episode 9. Fantastic. That was already a done deal before Last Jedi was even a thing. All right. To me, what this sounds like, you're going to see JJ taking a bigger role in the Star Wars franchise. He's going to be the Filoni of the movies.
Yes, I think so too.
And he's not going to just do a movie, because the original purpose of Abrams, if you remember, the original idea was JJ was going to direct all three. In fact, he wrote the treatment for all three films. He wrote the first movie with Kasdan and then wrote the treatment for the following two. Then he decided he didn't want to spend the next 12 years of his life making Star Wars. So they got other directors to come on board and do it. That was the deal they made. But now I feel like they're bringing him back and he's ready to come back. And moving forward, he's going to have a big part to play in the future of Star Wars, whether it be TV or the Lucasfilm Story Group itself, future movies. Maybe he'll be an executive producer on the Game of Thrones trilogy they're going to be working on. Or even Rian Johnson. What if he'll be the overseeing lord of Rian Johnson's trilogy? Bottom line, Kathleen Kennedy and George Lucas both have an abundance of confidence in J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams. So
it would make sense for him to play a more important role in Star Wars, especially if they're dealing with TV shows, man. That was where he started, was the TV world. So to see him even possibly get involved with the production or the producing of a TV show, and you put him and Filoni together, Jesus Christ, dude, those are ingredients for greatness.
Yeah, I'm really interested. Not just those are the two figures and absolutely in the Star Wars story group that I'm kind of curious where are they going to go next, because we all know that Filoni's already mentioned that he's done with Rebels, and Rebels is ending this coming season. And then where does Filoni go after this? And they've been really quiet what Filoni's been working on in the background, because he's been working on a project. They just haven't said what. And then now you have the inclusion that basically J.J. Abrams has stated that, I'm going to be working as well on furthering Star Wars for the foreseeable future. That means like possible TV shows, possible anything.
Misa back.
Yeah. And I'm willing to actually even state that they won't make a major announcement till this May the 4th, till this Star Wars celebration, because they're gonna something like that. If they were to make an announcement that J.J. Abrams and Dave Filoni are teaming up for a series on Star Wars, that's going to be a television show.
Yeah,
that's going to be at Star Wars Celebration. They're going to hold their punch and knock people out with it.
Yeah, I can't disagree, man. I it's going to come soon, and May the 4th is not that far. It's only a few short months away, and it's only a matter of time before we get that news. But I feel like with JJ's quick little words, he's going to be all in. I think that's there's a lot of room for excitement and interpretation. But I think things are going to change drastically after The Last Jedi.
I was just thinking about what you said about J.J. Abrams controlling Rian Johnson's trilogy. I can some strangers can see J.J. coming out and say, "You see Rian Johnson? He's going to be my little bitch for a while.
Oh,
he's my little bitch. I'm going to teach him the ways.
Yeah,
teach him the ways."
I don't know. I'm not. I want to say I'm tired of the Rian Johnson hate, but I mean, the guy has been going on press junkets, Dave, to promote Last Jedi still, and every interview he's justifying Star Wars. Number one, a director that's confident in his work doesn't justify his work. He's not confident in it.
Yeah,
he's not confident in his work, and that's why he's justifying it in every single interview. George Lucas never defended his work. Oh, you don't like Jar Jar? Suck my dick. Suck my dick.
He's still gonna be around. Too bad.
You don't like all this CGI? Guess what?
I'm gonna just double it.
I'm gonna kill you and make you CGI. You can't justify your work. You need, as an artist, you need to stand by it. And he just looks like he doesn't even have confidence in his own work. And then when he justifies it, he bashes Star Wars to justify his work. Like when people asked about the Han Solo funeral and why it wasn't seen in the movie, but it's going to be in the book and the comics. And I do agree with his answer, and his answer said it just didn't fit into the movie. If you look at the pacing and the flow of the story,
it's not going to fit.
Where do you put it? And I do agree with that aspect of Rian Johnson's thoughts on the movie. However, when he says it, he then uses Star Wars: A New Hope to bash or to explain his reason for and to bash the fans. He says, and I'm paraphrasing here, okay? People want to know why there's no Han Solo funeral in The Last Jedi, and they didn't like the fact that we didn't focus on that emotion that much. However, you want to look at New Hope. An issue I've always had was Luke is all about Ben Kenobi. I love Ben Kenobi. Ben Kenobi dies. 4 minutes later, he's fine, celebrating that he's getting the hang of this. So he's making fun of Star Wars and then points to a potential weakness in his story and points to a weakness, an alleged weakness in A New Hope. That's not how you win favor.
No,
dude.
That isn't.
Like, I'm not one of those people who think Star Wars is perfect. There's issues in New Hope. There's issues in Return of the Jedi. There's issues in various Star Wars films. No movie's perfect. But when you're trying to win favor, Rian Johnson, a word of advice. Don't actually bash the god of Star Wars. Don't bash New Hope or the original trilogy, because that's the god.
Yeah.
That's the Mecca. That's our 70 virgins. Is it 70 virgins? How many virgins are there?
I think it's 70 virgins.
That's the 70 virgins, okay? And David coughing in the mic, very unprofessional.
Sorry.
I'm going to do a soft firing of him. All right, we need to end today's show. I want to thank everybody for listening. We will be back next week, I believe, with the Rebels edition, won't we?
Yep.
All right. Thank you for bearing with us, and we love you. We love you very much. Thank you, David.
Thank you. May the Force be with us.
Hello, this is Stormtrooper 1, and if you've missed any portion of the show, you can always head over to FromTheBactaTank.com and listen to the show at your leisure. We're also on Stitcher, Smart Radio, Stitcher.com, search Bacta, and add us to your favorites. Thank you, and listen responsibly. And may the Force be with you. And long live. Thank you for listening to From the Bacta Tank. And From the Bacta Tank is executive produced by Michael Flores and Dustin Lucas. Hosted by Michael Flores, David Zabal. You can find out more about our show by going to www.fromthebactatank.com. You can also find us on Twitter at FromBactaTank, as well as Facebook, facebook.com/FromTheBactaTank. Thank you.